UK inflation fell to a fresh 4-year low. I have Angela Mc Gowan from Danske Bank on the line. So Angela, how big of an impact has the drop in petrol prices had on this figure, and what were the other driving factors?
Yeah, it was good news for the consumers when inflation starts to drop like this, especially when it does come from things like transport and from petrol prices, because they do make up a large part of the consumer's household budget. The petrol prices fell about 0.8% per litre this year relative to the rise that we saw 4 pence last year, so that's had quite a big impact on the headline figures. Diesel prices were also down as well, so quite good news in terms of the transport side of it. And then there were other smaller effects that came through from housing and household services, things like gas and electricity, very small falls there, and from clothing and footwear also had a bit of a drop we saw in January and February this year relative to last.
House prices across Britain increased by 6.8% in January, from 5.5% in December, which was actually the biggest increase since August 2010. Now, Angela, do you have any major concerns for the housing market? Do you think we are seeing a bubble? And what did you think about George Osborne's comments last week during the budget in relation to extending the equity loan portion of the government's Help to Buy mortgage guarantee programme?
Yeah, this is something that I do actually express concerns about quite a bit, particularly what is happening. I mean, those national figures that you're seeing of 6.8%, it's nearly double-digit figures that we're seeing in London and the South East, which is having the biggest effect on the national figures. I think it's a bit of a bubble creating certainly in London and the South East. It is something to worry about, but the government doesn't seem that concerned. I know the Bank of England have pulled back on the funding for lending scheme to stop it from going into the mortgage market, but I was quite surprised to see George Osborne continue. I thought they might put an end to the Help to Buy scheme. It's one that isn't popular with economists. Most people think that the government really shouldn't be involved in inflating housing markets. And of course, for us in Northern Ireland, we do think about if there was a problem, if there was a bubble and it was to burst in London and the South East, how will it ripple across the rest of the UK regions in terms of that negativity and the impact upon confidence?
And Angela, were you surprised by anything you saw in last week's budget?
Yeah, the pension thing was definitely a bit of a surprise for us. I mean, he had talked about changing the rules around annuities, but we didn't think that he was going to maybe go quite that far. I mean, I think it's quite good maybe at you can see how people might like it at an individual level in terms of ruling your own destiny and your own finances. But, I mean, I come from the banking sector, and you have to accept that not everybody has a good understanding about these things. And, of course, it can lead to problems, people spending their pension too early. We also have this, while simultaneously people are living a whole lot longer. And are they going to make the right choices as well? How will they get advice? Will they get the right independent advice? What will that advice cost? Again, this is something that could even impact upon the buy-to-let market again in the UK, where people feel, well, maybe it's time to buy a house instead of an annuity and have that income as a stream in the future. And how will that impact upon house prices? Again, could it fuel another boom? We just don't know.
Osborne also raised his GDP forecast for the UK. Now, Angela, would your forecast also be in line with this? And what sort of figure are you expecting to see this week?
Certainly, yes, our own forecasts are relatively consistent, actually a little bit more bullish. We have a 3% growth forecast for the UK this year, and I think his was, 2.9? I think probably there's a lot of things there that are going to keep growth looking quite sweet in the UK. Certainly the low interest rate environment is going to stay all of this year. We've seen business investment now starting to come on board. There was a 2.4% increase in business investment in Q4 last year. The fact that this is combined with strong consumer confidence, those retail sales increased 4.3% in January. So there's a lot of positives there for the UK in terms of growth on the horizon. So yes, we're reasonably similar in terms of our forecast that he produced last week.
We also have retail sales out this week. Now, are you expecting to see a poor result?
Yeah, well, we had quite bad weather. I think we probably shouldn't forget that in February in the UK. The floods were quite significant and do tend to take their toll on the retail sector as well, the bad weather. I would imagine we'll probably see an easing in the figures. As I say, they rose 4.3% in January, probably won't make that for the February figures. And the fact as well that Easter and Mother's Day, etc., will be quite late this year, so they won't have much of an impact. So I probably, in and around 3%, we would be happy.
Angela, thank you very much. Well, viewers, make sure you join me again tomorrow as I will be speaking to Clemente Lucia from BNP Paribas about Italian retail sales and consumer confidence. See you tomorrow.